Hello, friends, and welcome back to Like Anime. It's the podcast about anime that you're currently listening to.
You said that last week.
I know, it's like my new thing.
Oh, okay.
I keep riffing during this, not to great effect, but that one actually stuck with me. So,
It's also hopefully the podcast that you have previously listened to and will continue to listen to. It is the podcast of eternity. Put an echo effect on that if you would. Okay, go ahead.
but we have limited time. So, without further ado, my name is George, and with me today, as always, is Tony.
Tony otoshimasu. I think I said that right. I actually can't remember.
That was some words in Japanese language.
Yeah, except for my name, which is
that I caught. That I caught.
Yeah.
How are you, Tony?
I think that's what it is, right? Tony otoshimasu. I don't know. Watashi no namae wa Tony desu.
Ah, Tony des.
There, now you understand. I am. Oh, how am I? Genki desu.
Sweet.
Anata wa?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Joju wa?
George wa?
Yeah, just in the subject of George.
Ah, I'm good and Genki and stuff.
Genki. Genki. We're
Where's
all
our
Genki here.
where's our Genki squad at? But yeah, we're here today to talk about two shows that just wrapped up from the summer, the old summer simulcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is one of them Big Brother? Because that just wrapped up.
Yeah, it's not.
Oh,
Although I've
okay.
considered just turning this into a whatever we happen to watch podcast, anime notwithstanding.
I did watch all of that. What was the name of the guy that won? Why can't I remember? Oh, Xavier. Yeah, Xavier won. Oh, sorry. Spoilers for Big Brother season 23, I think it was.
We've just been canceled.
Yeah, I'm sorry if you haven't watched the final episode yet. It was like 2 weeks ago, so realistically, you should have watched it by now.
Xavier.
Xavier won. Yeah,
nice.
yeah. And Tiffany got America's favorite, which was a little bit surprising. I mean, she was right in there with Derek X as far as like the numbers went, and it seemed like Derek X was probably going to get it. But yeah, Tiffany pulled it out. I mean, she masterminded the whole thing, so she deserved it.
Did you contribute in the voting?
I did.
Nice.
I voted for Tiffany, but I didn't expect her to get it.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
She wasn't the.
She deserved it. Like she put a lot of things together in that game, and like the outcome was her doing, even though she ended up getting kicked out. Basically, as soon as she could have gotten kicked out.
She was working the system.
Yeah. Derek F tried to say that he was the mastermind, and maybe it was his idea originally, but the actual plan came from Tiffany. And we've already talked about this too much because this is an anime podcast and no one cares.
Oh yeah, chime in if you are against
Big Brother
or you're against us not talking about anything that's not anime. That's what's happening. But yeah, we do have some anime to talk about. They both have boy in the title. If you're clicked on this, you already know that. But we're going to end talking about Sonny Boy, a show I watched. And, Tony watched a little bit of before saying no thank you. And
before Monkey Baseball happened.
Yes, hey, we'll get to the Monkey Baseball. And then there's another show that I watched the first episode of, but kind of tuned out after that. But
is that all you watched was the first one?
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if you watched because the same thing that you didn't like that happened in the first episode happened again in the third broadcast episode. Maybe it's fourth. I don't know. The broadcast order's weird.
We're gonna get into that. It's Peach Boy Riverside.
Yes. We
Since
didn't say
we're getting
the name
into
of
it.
Yet, I guess. So I mean, yeah, I've talked about it in the podcast at the start of the season. Talked about the first few episodes, and George, I guess, talked about the first episode as well. But yeah, I knew that the episodes were airing out of manga order, and the creators of the anime seem to have reasons for that they stated publicly, and I kind of disputed those reasons at the time, saying, I don't think it's actually necessary to do what they're doing. And in retrospect, after having watched the whole thing in broadcast order and then having watched it again in manga order, I can say with certainty that their reasons were flawed. I mean, assuming that the reasons that they said are in fact the truth. I suspect that they did it this way for DVD sales, because in Japan, like, it's on the air, and then the only way you would be able to put them in order to watch them would be to buy the DVDs or Blu-rays, whatever it is these days. I don't know.
Unless they taped them, I guess, off TV and then.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah.
You could do that, I guess. But yeah, I don't think it's available on any streaming services in Japan. I may be wrong about that, because I don't live in Japan and I don't really know what streaming services they have there other than Netflix, which it's not on.
I know, and I know they've been very resistant to streaming, especially with anime, because of the DVD and Blu-ray sales. Like, the physical media is such a big profit margin for them to continue this industry. Yeah. So. Yeah, you may be onto something.
So I suspect that that's sort of what they're doing, but I think they may have shot themselves in the foot a little bit, because the order that they chose was nonsense, almost like random, to be honest. And I think they probably pushed a lot of viewers out, because they in the order that they aired as compared to the order that they should have aired if they were following the chronology of the manga. The first episode we saw should have been the second episode, so that's not a big deal, right? They just skipped the first episode and they're going to put it later. That's fine.
Yeah.
And the second episode that we saw should have been the second episode in order. Again, they're just continuing the same chronology, so those two episodes go together. It makes sense.
Yeah.
And then the third episode that we saw should have been the 9th episode according to manga order. So we basically skip the rest of the arc that we have just started and the other sub arc that also happens in the meantime, and go to the third sub arc. I don't know, arc, sub arc, whatever. That is basically the ending arc of the show. And part of what they said is that they didn't think that the ending of that arc was like a good, strong ending for the show. And they preferred the ending of the second arc, I guess, basically, because that's where they actually ended the show. So they basically just took the third arc and then sort of sprinkled it throughout the season. But like, they started with episode 9, which would have been the beginning of that arc. So at least we're okay so far. But then after that, they shuffled the order even of that.
Oh, wow.
We see things that happen, and then the next episode, we see the things that happened before that, like a sort of backstory thing. And I don't know. It's a mess, but I did watch it in the manga order. I found a list that, claimed to be the correct order for the manga.
Yeah. You went back after watching it all.
Yes,
airing.
After having watched the whole thing in the broadcast order, I went back and watched it in the order of, and it's fine. Like, I don't understand what their problem with the ending was. I can still kind of see why they started where they did with what would have been the second episode, because it introduces us to Frau faster.
Yeah,
because we don't see Frau in the actual first episode, which aired as the 4th episode, I believe, or maybe the 3rd. I don't remember. Yeah. Anyway, so I can kind of understand them doing that, and actually taking that first episode and just dropping it in later as a sort of backstory thing totally works. That was totally fine. But it was really like that big time jump from like episode what should have been 3 to episode what should have been 9.
Yeah, that's how could that not be confusing? Like, I didn't even see it, but
yeah, I mean, there's characters that we haven't even met yet that just show up, and the characters that we have met know them, but we don't, because we've never seen them before. But then, 5 or 6 episodes later, we meet them for the first, or our characters meet them for the first time, right?
Jeez,
it's and there's one character who at the beginning she's so Meki is an Oni, who in the what would have been the 3rd episode, which is actually I don't remember. No, it is the 3rd episode in airing. I don't remember. It's too confusing to keep track of which episode is which and which one I'm talking about. She lost her horn, which basically turned her into a human. She was sort of a humanoid looking. Anyway, and then
this is the lolly demon, right? Or
yeah,
looking.
Yeah, that's her. And she becomes friends with and sort of joins Sally's party with the other people. And then, so in this big jump that they do, people are suddenly calling her Carrot, carrot, basically. And we're like, what? She was just called, in the last episode, she was called Makey. And then, yeah, it's not until later that we get like the whole backstory of that, which is that, she lost her horn. She's no longer a high demon. So she's essentially a low demon, I guess, or I keep saying demon now, Oni. And she, so she doesn't get to have a name, I guess, because she's no longer a high Oni.
Been stripped of her.
Right. But then, Frau is talking to her and is saying, well, I have to have something to call you, and you're human now, so it doesn't really matter. And so, yeah, Mickey says, I don't know, what do you want to call me? Give me a name. And she first suggests Ninjin, which is carrot in Japanese.
Okay.
And they think, no, that's a terrible name. And then she suggests Carrot.
In English.
Which is just carrot in English. But, they don't speak English, I guess, so it's fine. Anyway, so that in the time jump, everyone's calling her Carrot suddenly for no reason. And we have no backstory for that. And then, this witch shows up and hands a sword to one of our main guys, and they seem to have some history, but we have no idea what that is. And yeah, it's just like that choice alone to put episode 9 in the third or fourth spot, I don't remember which, just a terrible idea. Like, it's not good at all. I don't know why they made that choice. It does not make any sense to me. Anyway, I don't know.
It's tricky, like, even talking about it, because breaking down the story, it's all in a jumbled mess, except
right.
You watched it in the right order after, so.
Right, yeah. So, I watched it in broadcast order first, and but then since then, I've watched it in what I would consider the correct order.
Yeah, chronological at least, right?
The manga order. It's not like completely chronological in their universe, because there are flashbacks and stuff. There is one flashback episode specifically that could really fit in anywhere. But anyway, chronologically it would be first, but in manga order it's last, and in broadcast order it was second to last.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not sure why they decided to do that, but it could fit in anywhere. So that one doesn't really matter either. The first episode could be like a flashback backstory thing, and it could fit in almost anywhere. And the what would have been the last episode. When I said first episode, I meant what would have been the first episode. Anyway, so here's the thing that makes me think that they did this all on purpose so that people would buy the DVD and put them in order. At the end of each episode, they've got the card that comes up and tells you like what the next episode is going to be, the title of the next episode, right?
Yeah.
And down in the lower right corner, part of sort of the frame around the episode card, there is like a number sort of built into the frame. And the number that's there is not the number of the next episode. It's the number of the next manga episode, basically. It's essentially, it's telling you how out of order the next episode is. So like first we watch episode 1, and the end title card of that says 3 because we've skipped 1.
Yeah.
And the next one will be, I'll just call them chapters, I guess, even though it's not completely in line with manga chapters, but it's easier to say episodes and chapters, I think. So chapter 3 would be the next one. And then when you watch episode 2, which is chapter 3, at the end of that, there's a 9. Because episode 3 is chapter 9. And then at the end of that, episode 3, chapter 9, there is a 1. So they've put these numbers there purposefully so that you can go through and like figure out what order they're supposed to be in and watch them in that order. That's clearly what they want you to do. Why else would they put that information there, right?
Yeah. If you're like watching it and being like, why does none of this make sense? Oh,
right.
There's a number system here that guides me.
Right. If you care enough after having been just like confused, like in the third airing episode, just like, what the hell is going on? And then And then the next episode, episode 4, chapter 1, we'll call it, was like a flashback, and that's fine. And then from there, where does it go? I'm trying to remember. I think then it goes to, no, I don't remember exactly. But yeah, it just sort of jumps around a whole bunch for no reason.
Yeah.
Even the subplots are not in their own chronological order sometimes. And anyway, it was a huge mistake. They pissed a lot of people off, probably made a bunch of people drop the show. And they're probably not going to get a second season, I would guess, because I'm guessing not enough people watched it because they were confused by it. But maybe the DVD sales will make up for it enough that they will get a second season. I hope they do.
Yeah, maybe.
It is an interesting enough story. And I know I haven't talked about story at all, and it's been like 15 minutes I've been talking about this. But what is there to say about the story? It's a pretty standard-ish, adventure anime plot, I guess, with demons and people fighting demons and things like that. The whole backstory of Frau has been hinted at several times, and we never actually see it. And that's probably one of the most interesting parts. The origin of the Peach Boys, as we'll call them, because there's the main one who, I wish I could remember his name. The main Peach Boy, who is
he's like the legend or whatever,
air quote, son of the original Peach Boy.
Oh, wow.
This is something we find out very, very late. This would be it would be the last chapter, but the second to last episode. We find out that he is actually an Oni that, whose father, I guess he's a half Oni now that I think about it. His father was an Oni. His mother was human. They had a child together. And then his father couldn't control his Oni urges to consume human flesh and ate his mother. And then he went to the original Peach Boy guy and said, I've done a terrible thing. You have to kill me, which he then obliges and kills him. But then the Peach Boy goes into the town, Momotaro, goes into town and sees everyone like beating this child because it's got a small horn growing out of its head, so they all know that it's an Oni. So then he sort of adopts this child and raises it as his own and teaches it to go around killing all the Onis, and now that's what he does.
Okay.
So he's not the original Peach Boy. But anyway, and then in addition to that, Sally has this same power for killing Onis that he does. We see how he got his, because he got it from the original Peach Boy. It's sort of, he died and it transferred sort of thing. But how did she get hers? And there's part of it, they do the story tale thing where they're, talking about the original story of the Peach Boys. And they say, well, what if there was more than one peach floating down that river that day or something like that? So that seems to be the gist of it. But how she acquired this, we don't know. So that's sort of an outstanding interest point. But mainly Frau's backstory, which is not enough to even really go into here.
Oh, really? Well, that's disappointing. She's definitely the most
there's a lot
visually interesting character.
There's a lot of things that are hinted at, like she's an angel or a demon, or she's something. Like she's not a hair folk. She's not a demi-human. She is something else posing as a demi-human.
Okay.
Like we know that for sure. It's been said multiple times. And there are people that knew her from before and say little things about her that kind of give you hints about, like, she used to be sort of a supreme badass of some sort, it seems. But the Frau that we know now is just pretty chill and likes to eat carrots. She's all about carrots.
So they're still they're teasing that.
Yeah. I mean, she's the most interesting part, like you said. So, of course.
Yeah, that's what drew me to it. Didn't get past the first episode.
The things that you didn't like about it, like I said, so first airing episode, third airing episode, they do essentially the same thing with the tentacle thing, which you didn't like. And then later, and I forget when, it's basically just sort of explained away as one time her father, who's a king, went to some far off country and got a giant octopus and brought it back to the kingdom as sort of a novelty to look at, or maybe a pet or something like that. And she got too close and got wrapped up by the octopus, and she just has some trauma from that, and the way that she visualizes it is a lot worse than it was in the actuality. But yeah, it looks like basically sort of soft tentacle porn in the way it's shown in the show.
Interesting. But there was no. Here's my question though: there's no payoff outside of that, or like, did it need to be in there at all? Just, I mean, maybe not yet.
No.
It hasn't delivered, but I'm just like, okay, what is the point of that detail?
Just that she had some trauma involving an octopus in the past.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just trying to show her as being, vulnerable in some way. I don't know.
I guess so. Yeah.
It hasn't really paid off yet. But again, we sort of end in a sort of weird place. It's not like a bad place to end, but like there's a lot of like unresolved things, and yeah. So we don't know yet.
Okay. It's still,
It may still pay off. There's still more material out there. So
okay.
All right. Who haven't I talked about? I talked about Momotaro and son of Momotaro. Why can't I remember his name? Oh, Mikoto. Mikoto is
he's the second Peach Boy.
Right. And the original Peach Boy actually was called Momotaro by his parents, that found him, the woman who found him in the river and everything, right? They called him Momotaro, which means Peach Boy, basically. Peach child, peach something. Anyway, Momo means peach.
Okay, nice.
So
I keep thinking of Moses, just with the baby in a river thing. But.
Right. Yeah, it's, not dissimilar, I suppose. But yeah, so he originally has that name, but then decides to change his name to Mikoto Hika something. I don't remember the full name. And then when he dies, the person we know as Mikoto takes that name for himself, basically.
Yeah.
I think prior to that, he didn't have a name, chose not to have a name. Felt he didn't deserve a name or something. Anyway.
I was like, I'm waiting for that guy to die, and then I'll have a name.
Just waiting for that guy to die. And then, what else? There was an odd moment, which when you watch it in order, I guess no matter which order you watch it in, it's a weird sort of payoff. But I don't know. Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter which order you watch it in. There's a callback from what is a flashback of his origin story, where he drops a steam bun and this dog eats it, and then he invites the dog to come on journey with him. The dog that he calls Dog, or Inu, right? The one that can talk without moving its mouth.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's the other thing I've noticed. I guess that's something else I could talk about. Wow, I've been talking about this way too long. It's not that good of a show. Anyone except for a human, I guess that's probably the easiest way to say it. So demi-humans and non-humanoid onis, their mouths don't move when they talk. The dog, as an additional example, their mouths are just open, and we just hear
the words,
them speaking, basically. So they don't do any lip flap with them at all for some reason. But with like the humanoid characters, there is lip flap, I guess, because it would be weird if there wasn't. But it's kind of weird when the other people talk and their mouths don't move. And it's honestly, it seems like a budgetary thing, because like the art, the drawing of this show is pretty good, I think, but the animation is really, really subpar. Like there are scenes where nothing in the scene moves. We're just sort of like panning or zooming or something like that on a still frame while someone's talking, usually like a demi-human or something is talking. So we just see them with their mouth open, and we're just like slowly zooming in on them while they're giving this whole like monologue. And like, it just feels so budget. Like I don't know. They could have done better on that front.
Well, that's another thing they may or may not fix for the physical release. Often happens when
there'd be so much to do though.
Yeah.
Like so much.
It's like just reanimating it.
Like 90% of it is still frames with maybe a mouth moving, if it's a humanoid character. But everything else in the frame is basically still. It's pretty bad. Like it's pretty awful. It's Yeah. So that's the other thing I had to say about it. I like the opening song. The ending song's okay.
Dark Spiral Journey.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good song.
It's catchy. I like it. Yeah. And I look forward to seeing more of it in the future should any more be released, which I don't know. I have my doubts whether that'll actually happen because I think they shot themselves in the foot by messing with the episode order for pretty much no reason.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That'll be the interesting thing if it is successful with like the DVD sales and whatnot, and it warrants us, doing a second season. I wonder if they'll continue to do this like out of order jump around thing, or if they'll just get their shit together.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it probably depends on whether the manga has completed or not yet, or whatever. Because that was their excuse, is that it hasn't completed, so like we're ending in a weird place, and I don't know. It was weird.
That's so weird because I mean, usually when they decide to adapt a manga, there's at least enough source material to do a whole season without catching up or being at a loss for what to do with the story. Like usually there's enough.
I believe there was. I believe everything that they adapted was probably already out by the time that they started actual production of this.
Yeah,
it's just that arc wasn't complete, I guess, is what they were saying.
Okay.
It hasn't actually completed, so we're doing like 3/4 of an arc, and so we're sort of ending in a weird place. But it's fine because you've got these sub arcs, and it's like 1, 2, 3 sub arcs of presumably 4 or 5 or however many, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't see the problem with it. It is a little bit of a lackluster ending, but so was it the way that they did it.
I mean it was originally a web manga I'm looking up right now, and it started in 2008, and it says it's still going. But then there's a separate remake manga that started in 2015 and has 10 volumes. So I'm not sure which one they're adapting there, but because they both say they're still going.
Well, I mean, the manga is probably a remake of the web manga, and then maybe is continuing from where that one left off. So it was originally a web manga and then readapted to be sold as an actual manga.
Yeah, that could be. So it's interesting they say they're both still ongoing, but
yeah, that is kind of strange, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, that's I guess that's it, right? That's Peach Boy Riverside.
All right. What do you grade it this season? I mean, given all these like caveats.
I mean, it's sort of difficult for me to rate the manga order, I guess, because I already knew everything that was going to happen.
Yeah.
So like as the story by itself, it's better than it was in the order that it aired. How much better, I don't know. But in the order that it aired, yeah, it's like a really low 5. Like I almost want to give it a 4. Like,
oh wow.
The story is actually interesting enough if you watch it in the correct order. But it's really difficult to get into and to enjoy in the order that it aired, because it jumps around so much, and by the time you get back to this plot arc that you were halfway through, like 3 episodes ago, you don't remember exactly where you were. It takes you like several minutes of the show to figure out when and where you are, and then remember everything that happened prior to that, and sort of try and forget all of the things that you've seen that are going to happen in the future because they're not important yet. And then you can finally like start like watching the episode, and it's probably half over by then.
Jeez.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, the out of order thing was very problematic, I think.
So watching it in manga order,
you
rate it.
It flows
higher.
Nicely. Yeah, I might give it a 6 actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was guessing based on.
Yeah, and because it's fine. I mean, the animation is poor. I don't want to say bad, but it's poorly animated. But the art is nice. They sort of offset each other. It's probably just a high 5. It's probably not even a 6. I don't know, somewhere in that range. It just kind of, yeah.
Okay.
It was decent. It was fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my 25 minutes about Peach Boy.
It was decent. It was fine. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
You know what else I don't want to do is listen to you talk about Sonny Boy for a half an hour, but I guess that's what's going to happen. What do you got? Can you sum it up in 5 minutes for me?
Oh my God. Hey, it goes both ways, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, I know. You didn't want to listen to me talk about Peach Boy for a half an hour either, but
no, it's not that I didn't, but I wasn't jumping up and down about it.
Does the monkey baseball come back?
Not directly.
No, but it's mentioned at least.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's sort of a theme of monkeys, I think. But yeah, so Sonny Boy is an interesting show. You kind of reminded me of it in the end there. I mean, not as a negative for me, but when you were talking about, trying to like figure out, taking a couple of minutes to figure out like
when and
what
where.
is, when are we and what has happened. The show's very interesting. It's a show that like consistently doesn't have an intro song, which is to me already like kind of a move. And I think it's cool. I think it works well. Has this amazing ending song I'm very, very fond of. But yeah, I don't know. It's strange. Like I know it threw you off, but it really tickled me, and I waited to like watch it all, like after it was all out. So I could get like a bigger picture of it, because I just felt like watching it week to week was just one of those shows where kind of remind me of like Westworld or something, where it's like not exactly, but it's kind of a puzzle box, and there's a lot of characters, and it's shot very creatively. It gave me like an auteur kind of feel to it, the way it's edited and presented. There's a lot of interesting like editing choices and shots and stuff, and then the thing that ties into like trying to figure out where you are, because it does this consistent thing every episode, even from the first episode, but it's like every episode after that there's some cliffhanger, right? And you learn something about this world, but then once you start the next episode, time has passed,
right?
And they've now learned new things. But anyway, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. This show is about a high school classroom. It's mentioned in the first episode. There's like 36 students, and their entire high school gets. Well, they're not sure at first. Like, did the high school get transported somewhere? Did the rest of the world just disappear? All you see is just their high school and like a sea of black. But then when that first episode starts, because I rewatched it today after finishing, but it's been 7 days since that happened. That's where we pick up. And so it's very interesting. Like you're learning. It all seems kind of mundane at first. They're just they're in a school and they're just chilling. But then things start to kind of fall in place. And this is the storytelling method that they use, of like things start to tumble out of the narrative. And so you learn as you're watching that that something happened, and it's been a week, and also there's this strange occurrence of these students like having unique, what they call superpowers. They have some unique ability, and we learn a little bit later that some of these abilities started to show themselves before the school drifted, and so that it's almost like a I don't want to say a murder mystery, but it has that like sort of mystery, like film noir aspect of just the whole world and everything, like this yarn kind of being pulled as things go along. But essentially, after finishing it all, the heart of the story is about these two characters. The main character being this high school boy named Nagara, and then this other girl named Nozomi, which I meant to look up what Nozomi means, because I kept thinking of Right Stuff.
Yeah, Nozomi Entertainment.
Yeah, that's their licensing.
I think it's just a name, but
just a name.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'll look it up.
Sweet. But yeah, so after watching the season as a whole, and it's what I like about it is it's contained, it's self-contained. There's no need for a sequel. It's all thought out and connected, and was satisfying at the end. But I have to say, like, the act of actually watching it was enjoyable for me, but it is kind of like the nature of it is disorienting, because it's not always easy to like know what's happening and know what's going on. And so I think it definitely rewards repeated viewings. And I will say up front, talking about this, I think there's a lot of themes and stuff that has gone over my head, even story elements where I'm gonna have to watch it several times to wrap my head around. But the basic gist of it is about these two, even though it doesn't necessarily like, and I guess that's what I like about it. It doesn't scream anything at you or spoon feed anything. And some people find that it's hard to engage with. Sometimes it's not like a traditional storytelling method. Did you find anything on that?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things that it could mean depending on what kanji is used for it. I think the most likely is wish, desire, or hope. Like as far as a name goes,
Okay.
hope is kind of a normal name in
Yeah.
English as well. So something like that. The other one was challenge or confrontation.
Okay.
There's also something that I'm not sure what it means. Something about fastest. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's the name of a train line, I guess. That's the other one.
Okay. Hope and like challenge.
Yeah, depending on the kanji used.
Those could both apply to her, I think. But so it's about the two of them, their relationship, but it's not really a romantic one. I think there are some there's something there, but it's not explicit. It's kind of just implied. And I really like that about this, and I'll get into it. But there's a lot of like that's at the heart of it. But there's a lot of themes going on about commenting on society and kind of toying with some like norms, some societal norms that we all accept and put faith in, and it sort of I don't know, kind of examines and in some cases challenges like some of these notions, but not in a way that's to me that's like overly intellectual or just like beating you over the head with it. It's just there and it's woven into their story and their plight. But it's for me, it was very hard not to think about real life parallels. But I guess I'll get some examples here while I run down the story. But
Oh, you're gonna run down the story? I should have done that with Peach Boy. Dang.
you're like, well, there's not much to say.
Go ahead.
I know you spent half the time talking about the episode airing and
Really, I mean, that's like the most notable thing about that show, other than how poor the animation is.
dang.
Sorry to derail. Go on with the Sonny Boy.
I'm just gonna have a few examples here. But like rewatching the first episode, it's so brilliant because you're just confined in this school, and everything outside of it is just black, void, just an empty void, seemingly. And you kind of just accept where they're at. Like they've been there a week, so assume like this is all they know and what they're dealing with. But then as things go on, we learn there's these superpowers, and certain kids are like being rambunctious and like destroying the school, just having fun. But some of the other students, the main one being this guy Hoshi, his like little star on his cheek. I don't remember him.
That's what Hoshi means.
Oh, it means star.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, nice. Learn all sorts of Japanese. So Hoshi with his star, he kind of becomes this instigator with this other student Cap. He's referred to as Cap. He's captain of the baseball team or something, I think.
I kept thinking his name was Ace, but yeah, Cap.
Oh, Cap. Yeah, there is an Ace as well.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
He comes up later. But Cap is sort of a simple guy. He's not very
Intelligent.
Yeah, he's not very intelligent, but he's also kind of jovial and goes with the flow, but is also easily influenced. And Hoshi does just that, where he's like, all right, we need to do, they're talking about this and they both agree we need to do something about this. What if the school, we wake up from this horrible dream and the school, we're back in our real lives and we've just, as students collectively, we've destroyed the school. It's going to reflect badly on us as well. So like we need to do something. We need to, come up with some rules. And so they treat it as a kind of like soccer, where it's like you get a penalty if you break any of the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is when, and the way they do it is so cool because, and I'm still not even sure. I think it's Cap's ability or a superpower
No.
No?
I think it was explained. See, I remember this because I watched this
Yeah.
episode. I think it was explained that it was just an intrinsic nature of that world.
Oh, yes. Like once they set up the dynamics.
Once the rule was defined,
Yeah.
then that sort of gave him the power, I guess, or something.
And I wonder if that was only within the confines of the school.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
Because there's a scene later where somebody asks Cap, it's after all this has happened and they're out of the school, but they're kind of like, oh, what is your power? And he's like, you don't want to know or something. He shrugs it off, and I need to rewatch it again, of course, but I don't think it's ever explicitly stated what his thing was. But yeah, that makes sense to me because that comes up later too, where there's these rules of this world, they call it. It's not our world that we know; it's this other world.
Right. Yeah, and I only watched the first 3 episodes, and that may be why I remember.
That's standing out.
Bit of it a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. But the way it works is like they set these rules up, and Hoshi is behind Cap the whole time, like kind of feeding him encouragement and building him up. Like you're going to be the ruler, and you're going to cast down your judgment. And so at first he's like very pragmatic about it. It's like, nope, you broke a rule, penalty. And when they get a penalty, they get this X across their face. And they're succumbed by whatever their punishment is. Like they can't. It's like a what's the word?
They just have to do.
It's compulsory where they can't not do it. And so for one of them, it's just doing like however many sit-ups or just like writing on a blackboard, like over and over. Or the first guy, what's his name? He becomes important. Asakaze. He has to just do long division like endlessly. Just keep dividing and dividing. And so all of this is confined in this episode, and it starts to get like really, it's a very slippery slope, and it totally illustrates, in real life how often this happens when somebody has this power, I guess not fantasy, but just being succumbed by power and greed and like letting it take you to these ridiculous lengths. And he ends up hitting that Asakaze guy with a bat. There's like blood everywhere. But they eventually heal up in this world. But then at the end of that, there's this amazing scene where, because Nozomi, basically the way they set everything up is there's like this smartphone app where everyone can like join the community, and then you know what the rules are, and everyone's given duties, when they set up this whole construct. And Nozomi refuses to do it, and she's like, no, I'm good, I don't want a smartphone. And they try to give her one, and she just very politely like smashes it. But then she gets a penalty too. But near the end of the episode, she's like, she can see a couple times, she can see this light. And so we don't know what her power is at first. But it turns out she has this compass power, and she sees this light that no one else sees that's guiding them somewhere, and they assume it's like the way out, but they don't really know. And so that's what prompts her at the end of that first episode to, she's taking, what's his name? Nagara with her, and she's like, let's go. And she just like runs and jumps off into the void. And
a literal leap of faith.
Yes. And he ends up running after her and grabs her. And then they both fall. And then right as they fall, all the void opens up, and it's this huge ocean that the school is just like slowly sinking into. And there's a beach right there. And they're like, what? And it's a crazy cliffhanger. You're like, what? What happened? But from here, we learn that there's multiple worlds within this world. And it's even explained that the sense of time is distorted between each one. Like it's all relative to each other. And so we get into certain situations later on where, they'll stumble across like this civilization, and some of these people have been here for hundreds, even thousands of years. But but it's all happened within, since this original high school was transported. But because of the distortion of time and where they're at, like there's some interesting worlds that they find. But yeah, each episode kind of plays out like this. So it's like when you end that first episode being like, oh my God, there's more than just the school. There's this ocean, there's this island. And then you pick up the second episode, they're already living on the island, and they have some things set up, but then there's some new problems have already arisen. And that's something I like about this show. And I do see it being a detractor for certain people, because it's like, it doesn't, swiftly lead you in to the next episode. It's like, oh god, okay, what happened? And you have to follow pretty closely, and rewatching some of these episodes was beneficial. But
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting because the first episode, we start like a week in after this event has occurred, right?
yeah,
And then in the second episode, we're, I don't know, presumably a week later, maybe more. I'm not sure exactly what the timeline there is. But yeah, it's sort of the same thing. Yeah.
yeah. And by the end of this, or near the end of this season, they've been there for like thousands of years, which is interesting. But I don't need to go through the whole thing, I guess, but this show really touched me. I had a lot of emotional.
It's a bad touch, George.
No, not like.
Show me where the show touched you on this doll.
It's not like the Bloodhound Gang song. No, it was good. It was very good, but actually, I guess it wasn't very good. It was mostly good, but it kind of, I felt some true sadness and longing about these characters. I don't even know if I want to spoil everything. I guess I could. All right, I'm just gonna say spoilers from here on out. I'm just gonna wrap it up for Tony since I know he's not gonna watch it. So you saw up until Monkey Baseball, maybe the episode after, maybe that was the last one.
I think that was the last one, episode 3, wasn't it, with the monkey base? Because they were
I think
still
it's
on
4.
the island.
That's 4.
Oh, was that 4?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And I remember at the end you were turned off, maybe similarly to me with the first episode of Peach Boy. But at the end of that episode, this teacher shows up, one of their teachers, Miss Aki, and she's got these very large breasts.
Oh, I do kind of remember that.
I think you were like on top of the monkey baseball. Just
it was mostly the monkey baseball.
Yeah, but I remember that was like another thing where you're like, oh my god.
No, I just like to make fun of you for watching shows with women whose breasts. I mean, Peach Boy. I can't really say anything. So
yeah, I mean, hey, it happens. I don't think either of us seeks it out, but we often or sometimes put up with it because there's other things we like.
Yeah. It was mostly the monkey baseball. Like that didn't really bother me. I just like to make fun of you.
I see.
For that because prison school.
Yes. Well, that's a whole different ball of wax. I won't dwell on the monkey baseball too much. I think it's mainly supposed to be a metaphor and act as some character motivation. But it's hard to, I don't know. It's hard. I need to watch it more to like contextualize like what is actually going on there with it. But
I can tell you what's going on. There's monkeys that play baseball.
Yeah, but they exist in like this.
They exist in a history of this world which we did not witness, that happened before anyone was there, but somehow they're aware of it and are telling the story of. Sorry.
See, I think I don't want to dwell on this too much, but I think rewatching it today, I think that I think it happened in real time, but only a couple the baseball guys saw it. So I don't know if it has something to do with that, but
they seem to be aware of it, and they were talking about how this game happened like 100 years ago or something like that, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, but that brings me back to like one of the overall themes of the show, which I really enjoyed how they did it, and I think also plays into the thing I was talking about earlier, where like when each new episode starts, some time has passed, and it's never really clear how much time.
Yeah, so you're saying that rather than there being a week having passed, it's been like hundreds of years. And
yeah.
They had seen this baseball game occur in the hundreds of years that they were there.
I think so, because
even though that one girl was looking for her dog for hundreds of years or something, or I don't know.
Or her cat, yeah.
Was it a cat? Okay.
Yeah, which that was within that second episode, or was it the second? Yeah, it was the second episode.
It was all within that singular timeline.
Yeah, where she lost her cat. Because that's my theory, is I think within the episodes themselves, it's like, yeah, like time is passing as we would, as we're seeing it. But in between, I think it's varies greatly.
I see.
Because they don't really comment in the first half, like how much time has passed.
Right.
But I think, I don't know, it is mentioned at one point, like, the passage of time in this world they're in, and all these different worlds is kind of funky, because it's not like linear, like we know it. Okay, so just to run down the plot, I guess. So this teacher, Miss Aki, shows up, and it's later revealed, I don't know who, but she's not actually their teacher. She's one of the other students, like basically presenting as the teacher. But what she ends up doing is sort of driving a wedge between part of the students. So like a third of the students are roughly end up following her, almost like a military. They become very indoctrinated by her. None of our main characters are really. I mean, there are some that are allied with her, like that Asakaze guy. And then the others.
Morning Wind.
Asakaze. Oh, nice.
That's
I know Kaze's wind.
Yeah, Asa is morning.
Nice. Morning wind. That's too complimentary for him.
Oh yeah.
He's that guy that's kind of a dick and yeah, breaking glass and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so she kind of like separates thing, and then there's this whole like talk about how a lot of this is being overseen or instigated by their principal, but like that stuff, that's kind of stuff that I need to rewatch this show for. That's what I was hitting at earlier. Is like I don't know how to contextualize all that, or where I'm missing something there, but it's mentioned throughout. But then it's also revealed at a certain point, because I think you saw where it's revealed that the main guy Nagara is creating these other worlds. That's essentially his power. And so he because there's a point where like they realize that he can find all these other worlds, and so they're like plotting him out. There's the really nerdy guy, Rajdhani,
You talking about the people that are in the curtains room thing?
Well, no, that was different. But I was talking about him. He's like he creates a bunch of stuff and is kind of the one big brain putting his mind to all this stuff.
Okay.
But the curtain stuff does apply, because like that was like another world that Nagara found.
It was like a world within the world.
Yes, yeah, and so it was kind of confusing.
Yeah.
But eventually, he figures out that he can control. He can instigate like changing the world they're in, but it doesn't go to where he wants it to go. There's a point where like, oh sweet, we're gonna go home, like Nagara's gonna do it, and he's like, all right, I'll give it a shot, and like he keeps cycling through all these different like crazy worlds, visually, like just what is it, mind fuck kind of thing. And then he cycles back to the beach they were at originally, and he's just like, crap, I can't do it. And so over the course of this time, like some people start to lose faith of like going back at all. And there's this whole theme of most of the people end up accepting living in this world, and they at a certain point kind of go their own separate ways. And we get to a point where it's just Nagara, Nozomi, and the other girl, Mizuho, who can do the Amazon with her cats. I remember that. Amazon is what it was called. But that was her power, where like...
Okay, I don't remember. I remember there was a girl who could make basically anything, but she couldn't give it away. Yes. Yeah. Because rules of the world said.
Yeah. So that was the second episode where if you just because basically she wasn't we find out later, but she isn't making them. Like she has these 3 cats, and they ended up having personalities, and like we get like their perspective at a certain point. But they have their own abilities where I forget which each one's job is. Like one like orders it, and then one like gets it, and I don't know, it's this whole thing of like they're the ones that can get them anything they need.
Right. Oh, and that's why it's called Yamazon.
Yeah, okay. Yamazon.
Yeah.
And it's revealed that they're not actually getting these things, they're just making copies of them. I don't know, it's a whole I need to rewatch it already, but but she basically in that second episode gets blamed for making all these things catch on fire. It's like this blue fire. And that's when you were hinting at, they realize, because I love that episode too, where it's like this whole misunderstanding where Nagara says like, oh, I saw her like standing in front of a tree that had that blue fire, and it's misconstrued, like almost like Telephone, playing that game,
right? Of
like, oh, well, she's starting it then, and like, oh, Nagara saw her start these fires, with a grin on her face, and
right.
And it gets completely out of hand, very common in real life. But it's not her starting it. It's this whole one of the rules of the world where like you have to either like barter or pay there has to be a transaction. You can't just like endlessly create goods and distribute them. There has to be a system of, monetary or barter, something, which, totally one of those things that mirrors real life. But through all that, her and Nagara kind of, because she was kind of like an outcast, like almost like rich girl, like just didn't want anything to do with anyone. And they kind of, through all that, he finds her cat that was missing, that you said earlier too. But anyway, so it becomes the three of them. Everyone else kind of sets off on their own. But for thousands of years, they're kind of convinced that they can find a way out. And to wrap it up here, almost reaching an hour, but
wrap it up. We're only on episode 4.
I know, right? Well, I'm gonna glaze over some of these because I don't need to go. I don't know. I implore you to watch it, listeners, if you're into kind of auteur weird stuff with metaphors and tricky storytelling. It's kind of a high bar, I guess.
And if you want to see monkeys play baseball.
That too. It reminded me of you always
I guess.
Yeah. If you're into monkeys playing baseball, stop listening to this.
This is the show for you. Yeah, absolutely.
Although you might be disappointed, it's really just that one episode.
Yeah, it is just sort of a retelling of monkeys playing baseball too.
Yeah, that's true. That's what I love. Is you don't actually ever see them playing baseball, but that episode actually gets me in the feels as well.
It goes kind of dark. Like it's got
yeah. And there's themes in there that I really, really enjoy. But anyway, so it kind of turns into a love triangle because at a certain point we meet this one of the classmates. This is kind of before they've all dispersed, but they're kind of slowly, going their own path and stuff. But they're still, they're still in contact and whatever. But we meet this girl who's been around the whole time, but has never been focused on. But she's this shy girl. She's the one in a cast. If you remember that, she has like an arm cast on. But
don't remember.
Her power is that, and she hasn't told anyone this the whole show up until this point, which is like 3/4 away, and that she can basically read minds. She hears like this like narrative of what people are thinking if she is in their presence, and so. We learn that she has a crush on the Asakaze dude, the guy that's kind of a jerk that got hit with the baseball bat in the first episode. But then she is very well aware that he has a crush on Nozomi, even though she had already turned him down. But he was just remaining adamant about that. And so it gets to this point, and of course, like we presume that Nozomi, likes Nagara, the main character. But that's never, it's seen, but it's never stated. But
you ship them. That's what you're saying.
Well, come on.
Everyone does.
Well, I like the fact that their relationship is framed as a friendship, and I'll get to that. But what happens is that Asakaze is being like goaded by Miss Aki, who's not really their teacher, but she's basically saying like, oh, you're the chosen one and you're going to, help us reach whatever ends by killing, being the first person to commit murder in this world. And this is another thing that I don't know a lot about, but there's this character that's just named War, and they go to this world that he's in, and it's essentially like this big, almost like the Grand Canyon, but it's this huge like.
Wait, so he's a character who is not a student?
Presumably not. I mean, when you see him, he looks like he could be, but he's just like silent and just like seemingly depressed. I don't know, like he's just like in a funk or something.
Because like everyone else is a student, including the teacher.
Yeah, and that's what they, and they kind of stand by that, even though there's even other instances where I'm like, really?
I mean, the monkeys probably aren't students.
Well, yeah, that's true. And there are other animals. There's crabs and fish and, the
cats.
The cats too, yeah. But there's like wildlife that's already there that they're like catching and eating and stuff. But as far as sentient life forms go, I guess they're presumably all the students. See, I don't understand this War character very much. Need to rewatch it. But it's a very important scene because this girl that can read people's minds, it becomes apparent to her that like she realizes what Asakaze is about to do and she's worried about him. And so she kind of reels Nozomi in, and Nozomi's really like kind of like matter of fact, but also like, isn't really like that. She doesn't get that worked up over things, but she kind of just does what she wants. And so this girl, like, has her come with her to meet up with Asakaze, and it's kind of awkward between the two of them. And then the one girl's like, "Oh, Asakaze, can I go with you on this? You have to go to kill this guy or whatever," because she tells him about it. And he's like, "I don't know why you'd want to." And it's like, well, she's like, "Me and Nozomi would love to go." And Nozomi's like, she's like, "No, we're going." And so they go, and Miss Aki's there, whatever. And it's like this, like the Grand Canyon, like they're on this, like they have to walk up this huge, crazy rocky ledge, and there's this, just sheer drop on both. They're on one side of it, but it's very narrow, and it just goes straight down. And then at the very bottom, there's like this purple line. It just seems to not go endlessly, but goes very far down until that line. And while this is happening, or while this is all going on, like he's supposed to kill this war guy, and it becomes apparent. Oh yeah, Miss Aki like already for some reason knows that this girl can read minds, and so she outs her in front of everyone, and so it makes it awkward. Like Asakaze realizes that she knows that he doesn't like her and that he likes Nozomi, and blah blah blah. Anyway, so this escalates to a point where he's about to kill War, and Nozomi is like standing there kind of near the edge, and a thing happens, which has happened recently for us a couple times. But yeah, he goes to kill, and he does kill this war guy, but it creates a sort of rumbling that makes the part that Nozomi's standing on of this cliff give way. And so she ends up falling down the crevice, which do you remember the two shows?
Yeah. One of them was To Your Eternity, right? And then the other one was Fruits Basket.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Two things this season we are.
Well, three now.
Yeah, three. Yeah, added to the list. And so this happens, and man, it got me because the show doesn't dwell on this kind of like heart-wrenching stuff it deals with. Like it happens in an instant and you see it and it's dramatic, but then the next scene, we see it cuts to back to Nagara and Mizuho, who are kind of waiting for her to return, and clearly they know, or they're realizing what has happened, but it's just like the way they do it, it's so brief, but man, it really got me. And then the next episode starts with this, clearly time has passed again, and it's this whole montage with this beautiful song of Nagara and Mizuho, Nozomi's gone, and it's just this montage of them kind of going through their life and helping each other and doing their research and whatever, still trying to like work a way to get back. Because the three of them, that was like their pact. They wanted to, they were pretty much the only three that still wanted to go back. But yeah, man, I don't know. It's just hard thinking about it. Even once Nozomi dies, it's really rough. But then, so that was the third to last episode, and so in the last two, the penultimate one, they spend it. There's that montage, and then they have this plan that they've been working on seemingly for thousands of years, and they have it to get home, and they haven't seen that Rajdhani guy in a long time, but they end up coming across him, and he's like, "Oh, I'll help you guys. Like it's been so long." He had turned into like a shaman or something. He was wearing like all this like traditional garb and like living in a hut. But he decides to help them like bring this plan to fruition, and so yeah. And then also in the scheme of that, they get Nozomi's compass that she had, and she had that compass power, and the compass is just like facing one direction, after she died. So it's like she's still with them. It's kind of like the memento they have. And but anyway, their plan involves like a giant rocket, and so basically like just propelling themselves into the atmosphere of wherever the heck they are, and reaching a point, like hitting the speed of light. This whole thing, and it's a really creative, beautiful scene of when they're finally, because they take the rocket out, as far as they can, and they hit the speed of light, and then they're able to get out of the rocket, and they're just like running across this like void with the compass, but behind, like the way they did it artistically is like there's this crazy visualization going on that keeps changing and morphing, and it was hinted at in the first few episodes that I rewatched, but I don't know, it was just so cool. And so, and it managed to make it like exciting and emotional at the same time because it was all wrapped up in, and the memory of Nozomi and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But they talk about it beforehand. It's like, okay, well, if this works, there's no guarantee that we will remember what happened or remember like all the memories that we've made together, like our friendships and stuff. And during that point, it flashbacks to a scene with Nagara and Nozomi where she's like, well, if it works, just talking about it, in the future, she's like, well, we better still be friends. And he's kind of Nagara's like kind of a depressive, sullen dude. And he's just like, well, there's no guarantee that we will be or that we'll even remember this. And then she gets very adamant of like, no, like, damn it. Like, if one of us remembers, like it's it's their responsibility to make sure that we are friends again. And it's something I really love about it because it's not like framing it as like this, love story. I mean, it is about love, but it's about friendship, which I hold in high regard. A lot of times when it's all about just the romantic, side of things, it's not really that solid or that concrete to me. But so I like that they went with just their friendship. But anyway, what happens is that I'm almost done here. Nagara, they make it back, and they make and so he like he's back in his life, and I guess enough time has passed where they're in high school now. I don't understand how that works because they were in middle school and now they're in high school, and so you see him a little bit, like he's like in a class or whatever. So I'm like, how does that work? Were you just inexplicably gone for that time, right? Or were you never gone really since you made it back? I don't know. And then he ends up coming around the corner and sees Mizuho, the other girl that went with him. And he's like, oh, hey, Mizuho. Like, and she's just like, who are you? And he's like, oh, man. And so there's this period where it's really sad of like, okay, he's not going to remember, or no one's going to remember, but he clearly does. But then it turns, and then he sees Nozomi after that, and she clearly doesn't remember. But then later, Mizuho kind of like, I guess she was kind of reeling from the whole experience, and she kind of snaps out of it and, remembers everything or comes to terms with it. And so they end up, she ends up finding him again, and they talk about things. And it ends shortly after that with the idea, like basically he says, he runs into Nozomi again, and she's like, oh, hey, didn't we go to middle school together? And he's like, oh yeah. And then she like sees some like her boyfriend or something and like runs past him. But then the next scene, he's kind of walking towards the camera, and he's like, well, there's in time, like I forget what he says exactly, but it's just kind of like a more positive, like, there's no need to rush these things. Like he has hope, Nozomi.
Hope.
He has hope for things to come, and this is something I didn't touch on yet, but there's this whole theme too, from him and Nozomi, but like throughout the show, different characters of like the idea is like, can we change the world? Even though we're just students, and mainly it's in this world that they're in, right? When they get transported to it, they have these powers and stuff, but they're like, they still feel powerless in the sense of like changing anything, getting back to where they were, or even like in this world, they can't, up until Nozomi and that war guy dies, nobody dies, it's like if you get a wound, it like heals itself. You don't really need to eat a lot of food. And so they're in this sort of stasis where, nothing really matters, and they feel even more powerless than when they did, in the real world. And so I think there's this parallel when he finally gets back. Oh, there's another thing too, where like once they have the plan and they're ready to go, thousands of years later, Nagara says like, we reached out to everyone in the class, to let them know and see if they were interested, and nobody wanted to go back. So it's like they had all accepted, where they were, this world that is unchanging and that they have no agency in.
After 1,000 years, you think you'd maybe start to accept.
Yeah,
the place you are. I don't know.
To start to adapt, and you're like, this is it. So I thought that was interesting. But anyway, by the end, he's he does have that hope, and it's like, I think the idea is he feels like he can change the world, even if it's not immediately or bending it to his will. But he has, he's a player in it. And so I like that because the show deals with a lot of real world stuff, but since they're middle schoolers, I keep forgetting that at the beginning, there's a lot of angst. There's a lot of, childish emotions, juvenile stuff. And so I like that. It's a hopeful, promising ending to leave us on.
All right. So, what would you give this? On a scale of 1 to how many years were they there?
I mean, it's a good question.
On a scale of 1 to 100,000.
Wow. Okay, interesting.
Or just 10. Fine too.
Out of 10, I'm definitely giving it a 7.
7. Okay.
I tempted to give it an 8, but it doesn't, in my mind, doesn't deserve it at this point. But I feel like with time and like repeated viewings, I could get there. It's really, for me, it was really good. It really hit me in the gut with some of these scenes, even though it was also challenging to watch. Like it wasn't like the easiest thing to digest.
Challenging in a different way than Peach Boy was challenging to watch, but yeah.
Yeah, this was all like, well, I guess they were both intentional.
Well, okay. I mean, so in your case, it's intentional by the authors, I presume, right?
It's an original too, so it's not adapting anything.
Whereas Peach Boy, it was intentional by the anime producers for reasons.
Yeah, some god awful reason. I will also, just to wrap up, I love that ending song, like I said, but there's so many insert songs that were really good, and I want to try to track those down on Spotify. And I also say, because I didn't touch on either, the art and the animation are just, to me, stellar. Like it just looks, Sonny Boy like looks so good.
Yeah. It looked the stuff that I watched looked very nice, and the animation was well done. And yeah.
Good stuff. But yeah.
All right.
You got any final words of parting wisdom?
Pickle stew on Tuesday.
Pickle Stews Day?
Yeah, I don't know what it means, but on repeated viewings, maybe someone will figure it out.
All right.
Anyway,
sounds hard to digest.
Pickle stew, yeah, it would be very vinegary. Not hard to digest, but maybe hard to get down, especially on a Tuesday. I mean, Taco Tuesday, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
Evidently, we're recording on Tuesday, October 6th. Is that what today is? 5th, maybe. But I saw it was National
5th,
Taco Day or something today.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
And it's on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
How fortuitous.
Yeah, very fitting.
That we had tacos for dinner. Wait.
We didn't. Could have made shrimp tacos, I guess.
Shrimp tacos. Anyway, yeah, that's gonna do it for the Boy episode. Sonny Boy, Peach Boy, Riverside, Sonny Boy, Riverside, Sonny Boy, Riverside,
and Boy George and Boy Tony.
All right. Anyway, if you have any comments, you wanna talk about these shows, you had a different take than we did. Maybe you think that Peach Boy's airing order was the perfect order. You were wrong, but feel free to let me know how wrong you are in the comments on YouTube or on Twitter or on Instagram or whatever. Maybe you think that Sonny Boy was god awful trash. You wouldn't be the only person in the world. I don't think it's god awful trash, to be honest. No, it's pretty good, and it's interesting. I just couldn't hang in there with the monkey baseball. But if you think that, get on Facebook, get on our Patreon. Maybe if you're a patron, you can send us messages.
Reddit.
We got a Discord, umlikeanime.com/Discord. We'll get you that invite. That's UMLIKEANIME. It's the same everywhere. Like Anime. We're online. Line, the service. You probably have to Google it to be able to find it, because our identifier, because we're not a verified business, because you can't become a verified line business in the United States for some reason. And we're not based in Southeast Asia, which is the only place you can become verified. Yeah, our line ID is like @334 NYCFF. I have it memorized.
Oh, wow. I thought you were just making something
up.
up.
No, that's actually it. Yeah, I actually do know exactly what it is.
NYC?
Yeah, NYCFF. So if there's any New York City firefighters out there that are listening, you can probably pretty easily find us online if you just remember 334 New York City firefighter. Or you can just go to our website, unlikeanime.com, and there's links to all of our socials at the bottom. You can also leave comments on episodes there. All of that stuff. Throw words at us. We like it. Do it.
We do.
Do it now.
Until we don't. But no, we do. Do it.
We do. We always do. Even the ones that we delete and block, we still like the feedback.
Yeah, until we're getting like thousands of comments, we won't be ignoring them.
Oh, yeah. We won't ignore any of them. Like, even if you're mean, you might get deleted and blocked. But
Which we did get a long, thoughtful comment on our fruits basket Did you ever respond to that?
Which one are you talking about? I think I respond to all of them. So
okay.
I don't know which one.
Yeah, I was just going in depth about Momiji and his growth spurt.
Oh, yeah.
How that's reflected in the manga.
Yeah, I replied to that.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, it was really rather sudden, but I can see why it would be easier to do that in a manga than it is in an anime where you have multiple. I didn't type all of this, but where you've got multiple animators who are working off of like style sheets that they're given for each character, so they have to draw each character the same way. If you were going to have like rather than a rapid growth spurt, if you were going to have it like slowly occur through multiple episodes, you would have to have so many of those style sheets to be able to make that happen. I can see how it would be a nightmare for anime producers to do that. It would have been an amazing feat for them to do that and accomplish that, and I would have been very impressed by that. Yeah. As it was just rather sudden and jarring, but it wasn't terrible. So
no, it wasn't awful, but I appreciated that comment.
Yeah. It sort of makes me want to go, look through the manga and like see that slow progression of Momiji growing up.
I'm kind of curious too. Yeah. All right. And
yeah, speaking of mangas, I do kind of want to look at the Peach Boy manga and just check that out. Maybe read ahead a little bit or something like that. You have no options with Sonny Boy because it's an original.
That's true. That's true. I just gotta keep watching the show to unravel it.
Hopefully, there's more of it. Have they announced anything yet?
No, I don't think so. But by the ending, like, I don't expect it. It's not it's not warranted.
Not something that would normally be continued. It didn't sound like anyway. But.
Yeah, I think everything was tied up. I mean, as well as it's going to be for.
Yeah, but we could go back and we could see those thousands of years that we missed.
That's true. You could have like an after story of like just slice of life in the other world.
All the chunks, right?
Yeah. Like, you'd probably be into that when it's
as long as they don't do the monkey baseball.
Well, maybe we'd actually get to see the monkey baseball.
I don't care.
All right, fine.
It's already been relayed to me in such great detail that I don't need to see it. In fact.
Yeah, fair enough.
In the show.
Yeah.
Okay.
I watched it again today, so I know what you mean.
Like anime. Bye-bye.
Bye.